My white potato pie recipe is easy and delicious. This old-fashioned dessert originates on Maryland's Eastern Shore, and it's definitely worth a try. Let's go over the ingredients for my interpretation. For a 9-inch pie, you will need 1 well-packed heaping cup of mashed white potatoes, between 250 and 255 grams. I just took some regular baking potatoes, microwaved them, took off the skin, and then mashed them. You'll need about 1.5 large potatoes. You can see everything's very firmly packed in here and is starting to overflow. So this is the amount that you need. To keep the potatoes from oxidizing, I just brushed the top with half a teaspoon of lemon juice and then covered it with plastic wrap. You will also need 1 cup of white sugar, as I measure 210 grams, 3/4 of a cup of evaporated milk, 180 grams, 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, 1 teaspoon of lemon zest, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg, 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt, 2 tablespoons of butter, and 3 large eggs. For the base, you need 1 9-inch pie crust that is raw, so this has not been pre-cooked. Of course, I'm using homemade, but you can use store-bought if you want. Like I said, this recipe is really simple. All we have to do is melt the butter in the microwave, then add all the ingredients, just whip them together to form a custard, pour that custard into the pie crust, and then bake. So I'm going to melt the butter in the microwave, and then I will bring you back. Now that the butter is melted, we can really get going with this recipe. Honestly, I don't think the order in which you add the ingredients matters too much. I would just recommend adding the eggs last. You'll see why. So here I'm just going to take my white potato, 1 heaping cup, and like I said, I brushed the top with half a teaspoon of lemon juice, and then covered it with plastic so that it wouldn't start turning black. Now for the sugar. White sugar, 1 cup. Evaporated milk, 3/4 of a cup, but I have some extra off to the side in case I need it. 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. I think the lemon and all the other flavorings are gonna really work well with this. Vanilla. If you don't like nutmeg, you can definitely leave it out or do 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon. I think that would be nice as well. A little bit of salt to balance the flavors. Now the lemon zest, 1 teaspoon. If you don't have lemon zest, then I think you could do half a teaspoon of lemon extract. I'm just gonna stir everything together. Before I add the eggs, I'm going to give this a taste to see if I want to adjust anything, because you can always add more sugar or nutmeg or anything like that after giving it a try. Just gave it a quick stir before adding the eggs. I tasted it. I think it's amazing. As you can see, it is a bit lumpy, but that's okay because I'm going to use an electric mixer to really blend everything together and break up the lumps. Happy with how it tastes, so I'm going to add my eggs. 3 large eggs. There, I'm done blending everything together. Took maybe 30 to 60 seconds. Now, I'm just going to pour my custard filling into my raw pie crust. As you can see, it is on a pizza pan. That's just to make it easier to put into the oven and then take it out. So I recommend putting it on a baking sheet or something like that just to make your life easier. Now I'm going to put my white potato pie in a 350-degree Fahrenheit oven uncovered. I'll let you know for how long. I just pulled my white potato pie out of the oven. It was in at 350 degrees Fahrenheit, uncovered, for 50 minutes. 50. It looks and smells incredible. As you can see, my pie turned out beautifully. The filling was a nice off-white, slightly yellow color from the egg yolks, and the crust was perfectly golden brown. Given that I had never tried a pie like this before, let alone even heard about it, I was definitely eager to give it a try. And when I cut the first slice and took the first bite, I knew that my white potato pie recipe was a big success because it was absolutely delicious. First of all, the flavor. In all honesty, this was absolutely incredible. In fact, it far exceeded my expectations. The flavor was hard to describe. Although there was a potato flavor, it combined very nicely with the lemon and nutmeg to make a creamy, nutmeggy, lemony filling that was absolutely out of this world. But what impressed me the most was that all three main flavors, the russet potato, the lemon, and the nutmeg, were all present, but none dominated the others. Instead, they all worked together in perfect harmony to make an outstanding pie that, like I said, far, far exceeded my expectations. The level of sweetness was just right as well because it perfectly complemented the other flavors. The slightly buttery homemade crust was the ideal backdrop as well, adding to the dessert without overpowering it. Overall, the texture was good as well. The filling was creamy and the crust crispy, but the filling was slightly lumpy. It wasn't a huge deal, kind of like when a sweet potato pie is just slightly stringy, but if slightly lumpy mashed potatoes bother you, then you could do things like mashing the potatoes while they're still warm, or maybe boiling them instead of microwaving them because that can cause uneven cooking. But honestly, I didn't think it was a deal-breaking issue, so I am going to still rate this pie very highly. I also really liked how this pie looked as well. It definitely had that classic old-fashioned southern look that really just makes you think of something homemade. One thing that I did notice was that the top of the filling was a little bit darker yellow and the filling underneath was more white. I'm not quite sure why that was. I honestly didn't perceive a difference in the flavor between the two layers. Maybe the top was just slightly crustier, but honestly, I really didn't notice a difference. Also, some people might be disappointed that this white potato pie isn't white. I think it's because of the egg yolks. You could just use one egg yolk and 2 egg whites, but like I said, I feel like that's a really minor detail because the flavor was incredible. So in short, this old-fashioned white potato pie was absolutely fantastic. I did some research on this pie, and from what I found, originally is from Maryland's Eastern Shore, the part of the state that's between Chesapeake Bay and the Atlantic Ocean, and my understanding is that it dates back to the colonial period. I've never heard of this pie before, but from what I found online, it seems like it's fairly popular out there. So if you live on Maryland's Eastern Shore or you are more familiar with this pie than I am, please leave me a comment below so that I and everyone else can learn more about this really delicious dessert. Even though it was my first time making this pie, I really wouldn't change anything. I think russet potatoes are what you mostly see online, so that's what I would stick with. And it seems like nutmeg is the most common spice, but if you absolutely don't like it, I'm sure you could use cinnamon as well. But like I said, this old-fashioned white potato pie from Maryland's Eastern Shore was absolutely phenomenal. It is unique, but also still familiar, so it would be perfect for a fall holiday like Thanksgiving, Christmas, or even Easter or Mother's Day. If you make this recipe, I know you'll like it. As always, thanks for watching.